Hello, buddy. Senior engineer, MBA, and investor. And in today's video, I want to talk about this research paper basically addressing how gene editing could have a place in agriculture, especially with climate change that is happening as we speak in today's world. It's a very, very significant issue, serious issue that will be impacting current and future generations. I want to talk about all of that here. This research paper, give my thoughts, and sort of reinforce the idea and the importance of just CRISPR as a whole, but also gene editing and genomics and biotech in general, right? Now, before we do that, before we jump into today's video, do like this video, subscribe if you have not, really does help the channel. If you have any comments, question, feedback, if you want me to cover any subject, research paper, or so on, leave me in the comments below. We try to read and respond to every single comment. So this paper was published early September, and I do think we made a video covering some of the data from this paper, but definitely was not this paper, right? So application of gene editing for climate change in agriculture, right? So the paper was written by quite a few individuals here, but let's take a look at here. Climate change imposes a serious threat to agriculture systems, food security, and human nutrition. Meanwhile, efforts in crop livestock gene editing has been undertaken to improve performance of a range of traits, right? So food themselves, right? It's just a living organism, right? They also have genes, right? If you can identify a specific gene, edit it in order to have a specific trait, then in theory, you could basically replicate that process in that specific living organism and multiply it and scale it up. For example, and be looking at some examples there, but let's say you have a tomato, right? Let's say you have a tomato in the field, but let's say that tomato is not resistant to a specific external factor. Could be a mosquito, could be, environmental, could be heat, could be temperature, doesn't matter, right? Whatever it is, if what if you can find that specific gene that makes it resistant to that external negative factor, right? Then that tomato will survive, right? So then you basically eradicate the disease for that tomato. So then you multiply that process to hundreds and thousands, 100,000, millions of tomatoes. So now you have more tomatoes in circulation to give out to humans, right? To other organisms, right? And you just scale that. That's just a dummy example with tomato, but think about bananas, think about all fruits, think about all the crops, right? Think about many, many legumes and vegetables and so on, right? So keep that in mind, right? Many of the target, okay. While only few application of gene editing has been translated to agricultural production thus far, numerous studies in research setting have demonstrated the potential for potent application to address climate change near the future, right? So this is just the high level abstract here. Let's take a look at some of the specific data here. Obviously, here in the introduction, they're talking about the rays of climate here in our planet and giving some examples here compared to past history, compared to where we stand now, and the effects of climate change on crops is, we all know this is significant. I don't need you guys to watch my video to tell you guys how serious this is. Obviously, if you increase the weather, it will destroy the planet in terms of living organism, right? You have rising waters, you have more droughts, you have more less water to drink, you have more droughts, right? You decrease the probability for agriculture to be sustainable long term, as you have many places that are going through drought, less water, you have less organism that are some species that are extinct, right? And those, this is the food nature cycle, right? You need all sort of species to survive, right? This is the beauty of our planet, but also could be the danger, right? If you start removing specific species through global warming, right? Because that's what's happening, right? So again, here they're talking about, the effects of climate change on livestock, right? Simply, it's just straight off, right? This is not even a hypothesis at that point, right? If you increase the temperature of this planet, you will affect the crops. This is not even negatively, right? This is not even a point of discussion at that point, right? This is quite a straight fact, right? Right. So quite some serious impacts here that are quite devastating to many, many people, including North America as well, right? So let's take a look at maybe they're going through some examples here, but this table here, summary of gene editing ap- application for disease tolerance, right? And I love this because, and I covered that in a video like few months ago. So you have species, right? So banana, right? You have cotton, right? Cucumber, grape, grapefruit, potato, rice, right? Tomato, right? And all of these, they have a specific disease that you can sort of manipulate, right? By editing a specific gene, right? In this case, for example, in banana, it's EBSV, right? And through Cas9, which is obviously CRISPR-Cas9 double-strand break there, in 2019, they were able to prove that a specific trait, in this case, the banana streak virus, which is a disease, could be mm, prevented by just basically editing out that gene, right? That mutation gene. What is a disease, right? It is a gene that was mutated, right? And then you have all these species there, in this case, potato, rice, grapefruit, tomato, cattle, chicken, all of that. And you can sort of prevent a specific disease by editing out that gene, right? And again, you may ask yourself, well, that's just one disease. Yeah, but if you eliminate that disease, if you eradicate that disease, now you may have some unintended consequences. So I don't want to leave you guys just by telling you guys that, okay, edit out that gene and we're good, right? It's not as simple as that. There is the concept of unintended consequences. What happens if you eradicate that disease? What does it introduce in our nature? But although you can ask those type of questions, which are not just philosophical questions, right? Those are actual scientific questions, because you don't want to eradicate a disease then cause another disease in another branch of species, right? That's just crazy, right? But if you think about agriculture, think about food crops, think about our duty, right? World hunger, right? And we've talked a lot about in this channel, is to eradicate world hunger, then you need to have some sort of process there to specifically modify genes in specific species, in this case, tomatoes, cattle, chicken, grapes, whatever that is, to eradicate a disease so you can have more of that food, more of that crop, more of that agriculture available to humans, to other animals, right? I think we as a duty we have that, right? This obviously this asks for ethics, this asks for morals. There's a big question around that, but I think we all agree, especially people watching this channel at least, that eliminating world hunger is definitely one of our top, if not the top priority of this generation, right? And to me, this is how you do it, right? You specifically edit out genes that are mutated and you make those vegetables, those legumes, those agriculture, those crops, those fruits last longer. You increase the average lifespan of those species so that they can be delivered to humans or to other animals, right? And then you don't have to do things like, I mean, I think there's a place and time for lab grown meat and lab grown fruits and lab grown items. I'm not saying that that goes away, not at all, but I do think that if we can modify, and that's what DNA, the company Ginkgo, talks a lot about, editing atoms, moving atoms to atoms, right? The moment we get to that space, we sort of unlock a whole new potential, right? Questions that we never ask ourselves are will now be asked. Issues that have always been issues for humans will no longer be issues. You'll have other problems, you have other social problems, of course. That's technology has always done that, right? You introduce a technology, it's meant to increase productivity and efficiency and hopefully increase the quality of life of humans, right? And of other animals. But by doing that, you introduce other issues, right? Just as dumb example, social media, right? Social media did certain great things in a certain sense, but then introduce other type of problems, right? That obviously I will not venture today's video, but that's just high level example, right? So really nice here. Again, I'm just astonished that there's so many papers that address specific genes here, and this is real data. This is science. This is how we do it. Shout out to talent here. I see some methods being used here, for example, here for some of the disease. But okay, so now we have summary of gene editing application for nutrition, right? So banana again, you can increase the beta carotene by basically editing out the LCY gene, right? And this is again done by Cas9, right? And then you can go through this list here. You can altered the oil levels, it reduce certain starch, reduce acids, increase certain like amylose, right? Reduce starch, um, alternate the sugar content of strawberry by editing out this specific gene through Cas9, which is proven in 2020. So you can even reduce the milk allergen, right, through cattle by editing out, for example, BLG or LAC-S, right? So really, really interesting data here. And this is now we just talked about disease. Now we're talking about nutrition, right? How can we make humans, for example, eat better quality food and have their bodies accept food that is not necessarily, with a specific starch level that is detrimental, right? Or a milk allergen, right? Or oil levels that, increase fats or increase risk of cardiovascular diseases. You have to get your brain juice flowing there to what the potential is, right? So really nice graph here that explains climate change impacts on food system. Obviously, as you have environmental outcomes on climate change, the impact is just so great, right? It is just so negative on our agriculture, right? Increased disease severity, lower yields, lower nutritive quality. So that's what we just talked about. Lower yields, increased disease severity is a byproduct of both the upper and lower problem here of quality and disease, right? Which we just covered those two tables to address those exactly, right? They're talking about an example of rice resistant. Rice is so important, by the way, guys. Rice, I think rice is one of the most underrated carbohydrate of our generations. I think a lot of people focus on bread, a lot of people focus on pasta, bread, whatever, chocolate bar, granola bars, whatnot. But rice as a whole, it could literally, if you can manipulate it properly and you can scale it up, right? You can prevent the diseases, increase the nutritive quality of rices. I think rice you could literally feed this world just through rice, right? Obviously, you need other nutrition quality to it, but what if, and that's a huge what if, right? This is a speculation. What if just with rice, you can implement certain nutrition, increase protein quality, increase content, right? By increasing amino acids in in that rice, right? What if that rice alone can give you certain fats, for example, fish oils, right? What if that rice can give you, like I said, amino acids, glutamine, can give you certain amino acids that can actually be beneficial to your body, right? So that rice is not just pure carbohydrate, it becomes something else, right? It becomes actually a mechanism, a tool to eradicate world hunger. And that's just rice, right? I'm not even talking about another species of food, right? So that's really interesting, right? So I wanted to cover here this graph here. It says gene editing improvements for land sparing in orange, nutrition in blue. Okay, yeah, so they're giving some examples here. It's the rice, it's animals, everything we just talked about here. Now you're putting in picture, right? That's your tomato, that's your cattle, that's your rice, that's your banana. You can see the difference here as you edit out the banana. You can see you can just change the quality to some certain specific. Either let's take a look here. D, what did they do? Enhance beta carotene, right, on the right side, and the wild type is on the left, right? So by nearly six folds in some bananas, right? So on the left side here, you can see this is the wild one, the one found whenever you pick it up. But then you have the edited one. Clearly, you can see it has different contents. In this case, more beta um, beta carotene, right? Which is obviously beneficial to the human body. Now, obviously, I haven't talked about unintended consequences. That's not the point of this video. And then you can see here, A here. Look at this, guys. That fish, right? Gene edits livestock enhances muscle yields in variety organism, right? Clearly, you can see that here, this fish has more muscles than this fish. This cattle has much more muscles than this cattle, and this is done through CRISPR-Cas9, literally by editing out a specific gene. In this case, I think it's myostatin, but I confirm that. But anyways, right? So Really, really good, cool stuff here. And then another visual representation here, overview of gene editing, innovation emergence over time, right? So you can see here number of editing innovation, gene editing on the y-axis, on the x-axis is the years. Clearly, you can see here starting at 2014, 15, you start seeing a spike here. Sort of been decreasing since 2020 here, but I suspect this will keep going up. I don't think this is a one-time thing. I think this is just because of what technology was able to bring at that time. And as you have emerging technologies that we've talked a lot about, not just with CRISPR-Cas9, but also with base editing, prime editors. I think this will just keep going up over time. This is my speculation, but this is where you stand right now. Let's take a clearly you can see crop and livestock share almost half of half. So it's not just about animals, not just about livestock, but also about crops, guys. You know, crops is very important. Okay, plants, agriculture is so important, right? Just the coffee I'm drinking today is from a plant, right? Just keep those basic, simple examples and try to scale it up, right? C here is what is the C? C is a diverse array of crops, and then diverse D is diverse array of livestock, right? So clearly here you can see the crops here, wheat being the leading one, clearly from here. Then tomato, I believe here. Is it tomato or strawberry? I think it should be tomato, but yeah, the livestock here, obviously, the leading one here should be, I think it's pig or rabbit, chicken also holding here. That's a hard way to graph though. They should put like numbers here and put the numbers in the pie chart. Anyways, yeah, so this paper is really interesting, guys, because not just it talks about diseases on livestock and animals, but also about increasing opportunities and increasing quality of our food and of our agriculture through the current limitations that we have, right? And obviously, this is still early. This is still early, right? I think we are still early. This started in obviously the mid 2010s, but it's still ongoing. But where we are heading with global warming, where we are heading with the issues that we face with oil companies polluting our world, and we have other companies obviously addressing that, such as Tesla. The point here is that we need these types of technologies to address our climate change problem, right? We have that very important is to recognize there are diseases in our crops and in our livestock that are reducing the number of species that we can have on our planet, right? And number of reduction number of species of planet affects us directly, humans as humans, for our survival, right? Because global warming happens, increased waters, increased water tides, less land, meaning and obviously increased droughts, right? So less agriculture crops, right? And then we as a human we get less foods and less nutrition, right? And that's nutrition, right? We just talked about all these genes that we can edit on the plants and animals that we can increase quality, right? Like increasing beta carotene or increasing glutamine levels, increasing amino acids or increasing protein levels, decreasing carbohydrates like decreasing starch levels or alternating the sugar levels on strawberries, for example. That's how we go forward, right? That's how we move forward with CRISPR, with Cas9, for example, but also with base editing, prime editors. This is going to have to be a collective tools that we use, and this is going to be both private industries, private institution, academic papers that will need to be published and be worked on, and also public companies like CRISPR Therapeutics, Caribou Biosciences, NTLA, Beam Therapeutics. All these companies will have to be involved in this. I really do believe this is going to branch out more than just human therapeutics for some of these companies, right? I truly believe it. Now, I know this is a topic that Caribou Biosciences have worked on. They have licensed, they have patents on it. But I do suspect that at some point has their human therapeutic side of the business starts developing more. Phase one data comes in, phase two data comes in, potentially FDA approved. Then you'll see these companies venture out in these fields because the total addressable market is just so huge, right? And I think we have to remind ourselves that these companies have a duty to their shareholders, right? A fiduciary duty, right, to their shareholders to do better, to do more, to provide more services, to increase the valuation of their companies for their shareholders us as shareholders, we have to think about this. We have to see how these same tools can be applied in different spheres, in different verticals. Now, obviously, it requires a different focus. It requires different, a specific talent, a different management system, a different company almost, right, to tackle these, like, for example, agriculture, and to tackle material sciences, to tackle livestock, right? These are different. This is a different beast, right? But ultimately, if you have the technology, then it becomes about scaling it up. It becomes about mass producing it. It becomes about setting out this right strategy. And again, I am not an advisor for any of these companies. I don't have inside information. But if I was sitting in the board of directors in Caribou Biosciences, for example, that hold that patent in agriculture in US at least with CRISPR-Cas9, I would definitely start looking further into enhancing that relationship, right? They already have some sort of partnership with Genus, the agriculture business there. I would venture more into it. Curious to see what you guys think. What do you guys think? Am I crazy here thinking about it? Do you guys think this is way too early, or do you think we're gonna see a lot of it in the next year? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Wanted to do this video here about a research paper. I think it's always great here to study together. Hopefully, you guys have a beautiful, beautiful Saturday. We will see each other in the next video tomorrow on Sunday. Thank you.